Well, hello. Well, this is not the video that I intended to upload this week, and I'll tell you the kind of funny story behind that. So I'm going to make this kind of a book review this time, since my original idea didn't pan out very well. But the story behind that is I went down to Mark's place down in southeast Oklahoma, about 60 miles east of me here, with the intention of shooting some footage out in the woods behind his house. And the fellow I'm talking about, he has the YouTube channel Livewire, in which he's been posting some of his security camera footage and stuff of these creatures coming up close to his house. And I wanted to get out in the woods and shoot some footage of the terrain around there. So long story short, showed up, took part in a podcast with Mark. He was interviewed by the No Such Thing podcast, in which I was interviewed on last week, and I was there. I'm in part of it, but it's Mark's interview there. And anyway, took part in that. And by the way, the No Such Thing podcast, if you get a chance, go to it. You know, Cornell is the fellow's name. He's got some good content on there. It's Bigfoot related. And also, if you get a chance, shout out to Cornell there at the No Such Thing podcast. But anyway, we did that interview, and then we went off into the woods behind his house. It was getting right about dark, about like it is here now. And I've got about 30 minutes of footage that I put together of us kind of exploring the woods there behind his house and whatnot. So I get home after that, plug the SD card into my computer to edit it, and my dumb self forgot to turn the microphone on the camera. So I've got about 30 minutes of footage with absolutely no audio. So what I'm doing right now is in place of that. I apologize. I'm going to go back and hopefully do a redo of that pretty quick and get the audio and some more of Mark walking us through a recent sighting him and his son had down there. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a little book review, which I said I was going to do at the launch of this YouTube channel. I want to do a little review of this book, and Roger Patterson's book, Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? Now, this book is where I got my introduction to this subject. And the story behind it is there's a very close friend of our family who back in the 60s, he was a veterinarian. He's sadly passed away now, very, very dear friend of our family. But he was actually corresponding with Roger Patterson during the mid to late 60s, during that time when Roger and Bob Gimlin and them were going out and doing their research into this subject. And during that time of correspondence between him and Roger had written this book right here, The Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist. This was, he wrote this in 1966, and he sent my friend a copy of it. So when I was a young child, we're talking early 70s, when I was a young child, we'd go over to his house, my family, to visit his, and they lived way down in the far southeastern part of Oklahoma in McCurtain County, just right up against the Mountain Fork River. And you know, we'd go down there. First thing I wanted to do is go find this book and look at it. I say look at it because at that age I was far more interested in the pictures of it at first. I mean, I was like probably 6 years old when it started, but I could tell you exactly where on the bookshelf this was every time I went down there. And it's mostly it's a collection of the old newspaper articles from like the Humboldt Times in Northern California that Roger collected and he put together to make this book. And he's got his thoughts in it as well, but it is a whole lot of newspaper articles and articles from other people that were researching this subject back at that time. But there's one thing that always caught my attention, even when I was a young child actually. The dedication in his book I thought was very neat, because it says, and there's mosquito, to the young, and this is quoting this book, in the dedication it says, to the young at heart who seldom say impossible, to the adventurer who doesn't stop at the foothills but penetrates deep into the forest, to the individualist who has enough fortitude to stand up for what he thinks is right, to all those who seek the truth no matter what the cost. And that always struck a chord with me, because that's a good motto for any adventurer. So, but anyway, some of the things that the artwork in here that caught my attention, I'm going to try to show you here if you can see it. Like this picture right here was one of my favorites as a kid. And Roger did the artwork in this book. And here's another one that's a really good one. Now, let me get this lined up. Okay. And it was just really interesting. In the back of it, it goes into some other cryptids and such. Now, this copy that I've got, it's not a first printing. This is a 1996 third edition that came out. And actually, this was given to me by a gentleman up in Bothell, Washington, that actually I'd talked to at one time, and he actually mailed me this book and didn't charge me a dime for it, which I was very appreciative of, because I always wanted to get a copy of it. Oh, and here's a good, we've heard the story of Teddy Roosevelt when he's talking about the trappers, that one of them gets killed while he's trapping in his book Wilderness Hunter. And here's the picture that Mr. Patterson drew to illustrate that. And like I say, when I was a young kid, these pictures were gold, and still are. And I'd encourage anybody looking to complete their collection of books on this subject to, if you can find it, get one of these. It would help complete anybody's collection. Here, I know last year or the year before last, Amazon had there's a reprinted some of these books. They don't have this original cover on it, but it's the same book nonetheless. So anyway, that's what I got this week, and hope you enjoyed. That's informative going forward. I've got some other old books on this subject that I'll probably do some reviews on later on, but this one here is the one who got my attention, the one that got my attention in this subject at a young age. And that's an interesting piece of history to me, that my friend, and he was a doctor of veterinary medicine named Dr. Stiles, and he actually corresponded with Roger during the 60s from down here in Oklahoma. So all the hearsay and stuff going on about that, I actually know somebody that knew the guy. So anyway, hope you found that interesting, and maybe for next week's video, I'll remember to turn the mic on when I go out in the woods. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and till next time.